Now, what do you label yourself? Christian? Jew? A popular one now is Torah-observant Christian. People are really into labels, but how important are they? Now, when a Jew accepts Jesus, does that make him a Christian? When I lived in Israel, I remember a conversation I had in a restaurant with a Brooklyn Jew, and he told me that Jews who accept Jesus don't become Christians, that Christians actually are converts to Judaism. Today we'll talk to a person who was raised in a very strict Orthodox Jewish home, but gave his life to the Lord in a Christian church. What does he call himself? Also today we'll begin a series looking at the Dead Sea Scrolls. What all is in them? I'm Jim Becca for the Messianic Judaism Network. Rabbi Mort Petroshansky is senior pastor of Shalom Hebraic Christian Congregation in Atascocita, Texas, north of Houston. The fellowship wants both Jews and Christians to feel welcome, so they use the words Christian and Hebraic in the name of their fellowship. Rabbi Mort came from a very strict Orthodox Jewish home in Philadelphia. His family would not light a stove on the Sabbath and cooked meals in advance. They also walked to the synagogue on the Sabbath.
And it came to pass whenever the ark went forward, Moses would say, "Arise, O Lord, and let your enemies be scattered."
He gave his life to the Messiah Jesus in a Baptist church and is very active with Baptists, Assembly of God, all evangelical Christians. But he himself doesn't consider himself a Christian.
As a believer, I think, I'm a Jewish believer, but not necessarily a Christian. In fact, I did a wedding for a couple last May. And he's from Israel. And he said, and of course, I won't do weddings, Messianic weddings for people if they're unbelievers. And he said, oh yes, he says, I believe in Jesus, but I'm not a Christian.
Asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Chanukah.
Messianic Judaism has become real popular in the world. One study found there are more Jews in the world identifying themselves as Messianic than there are Jews identifying themselves as Orthodox.
The problem is the term Christian has a really negative connotation, especially to Jewish people. Because they look at Christianity as they see the Crusades, and they were Christians. They see the Holocaust, and Hitler claimed to be Christian. So the Christian terminology is detrimental to Jewish people. They look at that and say, well, Christians have been trying to kill us.
I personally don't get hung up on labels. You can call yourself whatever you want: Messianic Jew, Hebraic believer. But the main thing is, have you invited the Messiah into your life and been reborn? That's what it's really all about.
Each Hebrew letter has got a symbolism to it and a numeric value to it. And the numeric value is called gematria. You add all those things up and it tells you a story. Come and join us on Free Hebrew Class on Facebook or Facebook at My Name John Godry.
And next week, we'll take you into a special look at the Dead Sea Scrolls. What did the Dead Sea Scrolls say about Yeshua Jesus? There are some who question the accuracy of the Bible, and we're beginning a series looking into the Bible. Where did it come from? Has it changed? Some Jews will not read sections of the Bible. Why? We're going to look at the oldest copies of the Bible and talk with a person who translated the Dead Sea Scrolls. Nehemiah Gordon, a Karaite Jew and a descendant of a long line of rabbis that go back all the way to the family of Jesus, Yeshua.
So the Dead Sea Scrolls are a bunch of documents that were discovered at a place called Qumran and other locations near the shore of the Dead Sea in Israel. It's over 1,000 documents, and they were mostly written before the year 68 AD when they were stuck in a cave. Some of them are a little bit later. So I worked on a project called the Dead Sea Scrolls Publication Project and the Dead Sea Scrolls Reader. And what I did was, really on the Dead Sea Scroll Publication Project is I was doing, how do I describe it? I was verifying what scholars were writing. So for example, they would submit a translation and an interpretation of a text, and they would say, you know, we interpret it this way because it says such and such in the Syriac and such in the Septuagint and such in the scroll, and I would have to check every single detail and verify that it was correct. And sometimes it wasn't. And so it was very detail oriented, and I did that for a few years, and they said, oh wow, you've got some skills here. We're preparing this thing called the Dead Sea Scrolls Reader. Here are some texts for you to translate. And so I translated some of those texts, usually very small texts that people hadn't translated because they were small, or they were translated into French and had never been translated into English, and so I translated them into English.
Next week, we're going to take an up-close look at the Dead Sea Scrolls. And if you're interested in Hebrew, visit my site, Messianic Judaism Network, and click on Hebrew Lessons. I'm Jim Becca for the Messianic Judaism Network.